Okay.
My name's Jennifer, and I'm going to tell you my story. I'm 33 years old, and when I was in junior high in 7th grade, I met the love of my life, and we were girlfriend and boyfriend all through junior high school, after high school. And 7 years ago, I went to the river, and I was partying a little too much. Someone slipped me something, and I was raped by more than 2 people, and I was kind of in and out of it through the whole thing. But I basically woke up in the morning on the beach, a mess, and I knew what had happened. So I went home to my parents' house, and 3 months later I found out I was pregnant. So my boyfriend, that had been my boyfriend forever, he and I moved to Colorado, and he was going to love me the same, and he said we would take care of it, we'd handle it, we'd do it together. And one night in a bar, Jim was my boyfriend's name, he was a bartender in a bar, and someone came in, had a few drinks, started a fight, pulled a gun out, shot my boyfriend, killed him, and I was left with our 8-year-old son, and he was still in California at the time, and I was pregnant with a baby that was not conceived consensually. And I came home to California, I had that baby, and gave him up for adoption. He's with a lovely family in Ireland, has everything he could ever think of and more. So out of a tragedy like that came a blessing for another family. But still we were left with the tragedy of losing my best friend, my other half of my heart, and my 8-year-old son, his father. I didn't deal with it well. I took my son to my mom's house and said, I can't do this. And I walked away from being a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a operating and good person in society. I ended up being a drug addict. Ended up putting needles in my arms, slamming dope, and losing everything. I even lost his ashes. I lost the urn that had his ashes in them because of my addiction and the people I was hanging around with. For about 4 years, I was just a drug addict and nothing else. And then my family did an intervention. They stopped me and said, we love you, we want you to be a part of our family. Sent me to rehab 3 different times. That didn't work. Finally, I just said, forget it, I'll do it on my own. And I moved away from the drug setting, small town banning, came to Hemet and got clean. And that's where I'm at now.
And how old was Jim when he passed away?
He was 27.
And how old were you?
I was 25.
Do you still think about him?
Every day. I wonder what it would have been like if we would have gone home. We talked about it. It was really weird. Like 2 hours before he was shot, for some reason, something came over me, and I leaned over the bar and said, let's just go. And he was like, I can't just go. I'm working. I was like, okay. And if we would have just been spontaneous and just taken that whim, maybe he could have been here.
Do you know what happened to the person that killed him? Was he ever caught?
Yeah. He got 18 years. 15 years for involuntary manslaughter. 3 years for a felony crime committed with a weapon, a firearm. But he'll probably get out for good behavior or whatever. He probably won't do the whole time. And he'd already been picked up 7 or 8 times in that same county in the last 2 years prior to that for just petty things. But he was 5150, and if they would have, it's all if, should have, would have, if they would have done something about it. But that's where we're at.
Now, what started you on your addiction? I mean, did you already have prior drug use with that same drug before, or was it just something that you were trying to numb yourself?
It's something that we partied with once in a while, but I was looking to be numb. I was looking to feel nothing. I was actually, while I was pregnant, with that child, I started my heavy drug use. Part of losing Jim, part of I have a child in me that, I never wanted. I don't know who the father is, you know what I mean? It was violent how that baby was conceived, and I had no love for that child. And I love kids. I'm a kid person, but there was no way I could give that child what he needed, ever.
Now, what did you do to get yourself clean?
I came home. I moved in with my parents and just started to be a part of the family again. And they were my support system. My friends were my support system. Just removing myself from the situation. If you're hanging out with bad people, it's your own decisions, but the wrong people have a major influence on what you do and the choices you make. So I removed myself from that. I moved 11 miles away and changed my life.
Now, how did your parents respond to you during the time you had your addiction?
My mom was very angry. My mom didn't understand. She is a mom. She thought it doesn't matter how much you hurt. You're a mom. You need to be a mother. You need to buck up. My dad was a bit more sympathetic. I'm closer with my dad than I am with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
My dad felt he wasn't okay with it at all, but he was like, I heard him having conversations with my mom. She's hurting. You know what I mean? She watched someone she loved dearly get shot right in front of her, and that only lasted for a little while. My dad just turned disappointed because it was ongoing and it kept going and kept going. It wasn't like, okay, just let her have her time and then it'll get better. It took a long time.
Now, how did your son respond when you left him to try to heal yourself or mend yourself?
He felt abandoned. He didn't like me for a long time. He hated me. He thought I was selfish. He thought I was replacing his dad with drug addict boyfriends, the drug itself. And he didn't quite understand until later on that it was just he didn't want to feel. I was so encompassed in pain and grief, and I was lost. We have a pretty good relationship now.
Were you searching for the same kind of love you had with your boyfriend?
Yes.
And was it found?
No. That, I don't think I'll ever find that again, ever.
Are you in contact with his family?
They blame me. His mom blames me. The way it went down was he was defending me. And so, yeah, it was all my fault. That was another thing I had to deal with because I blamed myself as well. If I hadn't have been there, if I would have kept my mouth shut, if I, maybe it just wouldn't have been.
Do they take part in his life?
Yeah. Not a whole lot because it impacted everybody losing Jim. His mom never got over it. She doesn't leave her house. She takes more medication than Carter has pills. It's Orion that does the effort to go see his grandma, and that family, they don't make the effort. And I don't go in her yard. I don't call her phone. She literally despises me.
Is that hurtful to you?
Yeah. It does. I mean, I grew up with her. She was the other mom. But I can kind of understand I can be, I don't understand. I don't understand, but I can be
Sympathetic?
sympathetic
Yeah.
a little bit.
And how did you meet him?
Stagecoach Carnival. I had my group of friends, he had his group of friends. They were all kind of loud and obnoxious and showing off, and he was just kind of standing off on the side with his brown moccasin boots and his leather jacket, and he was just really quiet, and he caught my eye when I caught his, and next thing you know, we were on the zipper making out.
And how old were you?
I was 13.
And how old was he?
He was 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was my first kiss, my first everything.
Would you consider it love at first sight? Or was it more like a admiration?
It was 13-year-old lust. But it didn't take very long for it to be, I love you madly. And that's why I think I'll never feel that again. We had a lot of time invested, and there's just nothing like being 14 and in love. Absolutely not.
What did your parents think of him when they first met him?
Jim was a little eccentric. Like, he wore all of his like Indian jewelry and his hair down and his leather jacket and those moccasins. And my mom, she was like, oh my God. And my dad made a comment, what's he gonna do next? Put a bone through his nose? He did not like him. They didn't like him.
Was it his appearance they didn't like, or?
It was his appearance, he was kind of like a snot. Not a snot. He was arrogant. He was really arrogant. And he didn't really follow the dynamics of, I'm in my girlfriend's parents' house and I need to act a certain way and be polite. He was kind of like, yeah, this is my girlfriend. What?
Now, what did his parents think of you?
They loved me. His mom, she was the one that I smoked weed with the very first time. We ditched school, went to his mom's house. She always watched like these black and white shows on TV, and we sat down at the table and she always drank coffee, and she pulled a little tin box out and she looked at Jim and she's like, is she gonna smoke? And I didn't know what they were really talking about. I was like, what? I didn't know it was cool like that. And he goes, I don't know, ask her. And so she just slides the tin over and she says, open it up. Open it up. And she says, if you can roll it, you can smoke it. So of course, an hour later, I had this I went through like 4 rolling papers. It was totally impregnated. It had this big old tumor. But we smoked it. I mean, his mom was really cool. She was really, really cool. His whole family loved me. I mean, we were good for each other, and everybody saw that.
Were his parents kind of eccentric like he was?
Yeah, my parents, they never smoked weed. I think my dad smoked a cigarette once in his whole life. They were really kind of like your straight and narrow. And his family, totally different. Totally different. I mean, she was like this Wiccan pagan lady, and she'd pull hair out of your head and tell you, wrap around her pinky and be like, I'm gonna curse you. I mean, just funny. They were just strange. I think there was a big attraction to them being so different. Loved it. That's what makes it kind of painful that they don't want to have anything to do with me now. Because there was a lot of years. There was like 15 years 14 years, something like that we had together being a family. And all it took was one day for it to all be gone.
Now, the persons that had raped you, did you ever find out who they were?
No.
If you had, would you have sought some kind of prosecution?
No. Because I hid everything. I didn't tell anybody. The only person that knew I was pregnant was Jim. I hid my whole pregnancy from everybody. I didn't even tell my best friends. I was really super ashamed.
And were you more ashamed that you had let yourself get in that situation, or the fact that, or were you ashamed of the fact that it happened in general?
I was ashamed that I had put myself in that position because I was partying. I was by myself. I was with people I didn't know. And you open yourself up to things. And I thought I was smart. Thought I had street smarts. Thought I knew what I was doing. Clearly I didn't.
Now, because of that, what happened to you? Do you try to show your sons how women should be treated?
Absolutely. I told my son about that whole situation, and I told him, there's ugliness, and you're not a real man if you're partaking in ugliness. You need to treat women a certain way. It's respect. It's just wrong. He was very angry. He was like, you should press charges, da 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 da. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, I was totally out of it when the whole thing was happening. Like, I remember bits and pieces. I don't remember faces. There's nothing I could remember, and it's far too late to do any kind of DNA rape kit or anything like that.
Was your adoption open?
Yeah.
So do you have contact with the parents?
My mom does. They're beautiful people, just phenomenally great people. I have an open plane ticket to go to Ireland anytime I want, but it's just not something I'm ready to deal with. My mom gets pictures, school pictures and things like that in the mail, and I always know when it comes because it's a big yellow envelope from Ireland and it sits on the counter kind of waiting for me to pick it up and look at it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's just, I don't know if it's to say it's too early for me to deal with that, but right now it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's really not easy. Because when I look at his face, my mind starts working, and I try to picture, who does he look like? Who was at that party? Who could that be?
Now, the people that you were partying with that weekend, did you know all of them?
I went to the river, and I was going to spend one epic summer kind of backpacking. And we go from house to house, and there's parties, and people pick you up on boats, and hey, let's go, woo, And I went to a party, and they started lighting lights. And one of them was 15, and started to feel funny, so I went down to the beach to sit down. And next thing I know, I remember I was face down in the sand. There was obviously someone on top of me, and 2, maybe 3 people watching, and then I was out of it. And then I came to again, there was somebody else on me, only one person sitting there, and then I was back out of it. Woke up a third time, and I don't really know what was going on. I just remember kind of waking up, spitting sand out. And then I went back out and woke up in the morning, and I had like 0 to no clothes on. I had chunks of hair pulled out of my head. I had bite marks all over me, black eye, fat lip, bruises just head to toe. And I just grabbed whatever stuff I had sitting around me that was mine and took off. Went to a public restroom. The lady took one look at me and was like, wow. And she let me come in and use the bathroom and cleaned up myself as much as I could. And asked the lady if I could borrow phone money. And I got on the phone, a payphone, and called my mom. And she got me a bus ticket.
Now, did you tell your mom what had happened?
No.
So, at this point, does she know how that baby was conceived to give it for adoption?
She didn't even know I was pregnant until I came home from Colorado because I was home for about a month or two. And then I called Jim. He was already living in Colorado. And I called him and I said, look, I need you. You know what I mean? I need to come to you. And he was like, come out here. And as soon as I got off the bus, he looked at me and said, oh my God. Oh my God. And then I told him what happened, and he was such a rock. I don't think it takes a real man to scoop you up in his arms and tell you it's going to be okay and we'll be all right.
And you believed him when he said that?
Absolutely. And everything was all right. Everything was great. And then that happened, and I got on an airplane, and Katie, my friend Katie, she bought me an airplane ticket. And she said, come home. My parents picked me up from the airport, and I was out here with baby, and I had to explain everything. My parents were shocked. Unbelievable. My dad actually had a hard time with that. He loves me dearly, but he couldn't look at me for like 3 or 4 or 5 days.
Do you think it's because he was hurting for you?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's that father thing. You think you're protecting your children. You think that you can do anything. And he was helpless. It was very hard for him.
Okay, I'm going to end with this one question. Okay. If there's anything you could say to Jim right now, what would you say?
I hope I'm doing you proud. I hope I'm raising your son as you would, or as best I can as you would. I just hope I'm making you proud. And I miss you. Love you.